brand new for us. So for number 1, what is the perfect score? 36. Yeah, 36 is the highest you can get. How many questions are there on the reading portion? It's been a while since we've done reading. 40. True or false, the ACT tests your overall comprehension? Nope, that's false. It's going to test you on how well you know the ACT and how you can apply the general rules of the ACT, which is what we've been doing. Number 4, what should you always do first with a reading passage? Yep, read the questions. Remember, those give you a roadmap as to what you're looking for in the passages. Is number 5 correct or incorrect? Angie is more athletic than I. It is correct, yes. You should always see another verb at the end of that than I am. How many minutes do you have per passage? 9 minutes, yes, approximately, to average for reading. Its apostrophe is not a word and will never be correct. That is true. That is not a word with the apostrophe at the end of it. 8, true or false, a pronoun coming after a preposition has to be in the objective case. Let's see if I can give you an example. He responded to I or me incorrectly. Which one do we pick? I or me? He responded to me. Is me in the subject or object case pronoun? Do you remember? So we have a verb here. Subject comes in the beginning. Object comes here. It is the object, yes. So a pronoun coming after a preposition, so after to here, has to be in the objective case. That is true. Number 9, it is better to live for today than die for tomorrow. The correction possibly is with then, T-H-E-N. We said that there are 2, than and then. Do we remember what they are? With an A is a comparison. What with EN? EN is what? It like time or sequence. Yeah, so do we want to say it is better to live for today than die tomorrow? Like, am I supposed to live today and then die tomorrow? Or do I want to make a comparison? It's better to live for today than die for tomorrow. I want to make a comparison and say than, not then. So that one's incorrect. 10, you have 45 minutes to answer the questions on the English section. 45 minutes, English. True or false? That's true, yeah. What should you do with an English passage? So instead of with a reading passage, you read the questions first. What do you do in an English passage? When you have all of those underlinings in the passage, what are you supposed to do? Not annotate, you read the passage first. A lot of these, you're dealing with the passage as a whole. They'll ask you like, what makes more logical sense of where to put a sentence. If you read the whole passage, then you kind of get a feel of what verb tense the passage is in, what would be a logical progression of ideas in the passage. These we talked about before. How often is no change correct? 25%. The underlined portion, 50% of the time. If you run out of time and you have to guess, it's probably good, at least in the English section, to guess either no change or omit the underlined portion. More so omit the underlined portion just because it occurs more often. And then we join two sentences together, either by one making them two sentences. We can join it with a comma and conjunction, like and, that's a common one, or you can put a semicolon in between them and join two independent clauses. Okay, so let's take a look now at some of the specifics of the ACT English exam. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of read through some of these, highlight some of the details that are important for you. First question says, what will students be asked to write about in the essay? The essays are always going to essentially be an argument essay. Years ago, they had informational, then some of them would be arguments. Now all of them are arguments. Okay, so the whole idea is that you're persuasively presenting examples from the text or from your outside experience in order to answer the question. It tends to be an open-ended question, so it's not saying you have to specifically answer it in only this way. There are an option, a variety of ways that you can answer it. But every single one of them is going to ask you to take a position. It's going to ask you to take a side. I'm going to say this right here because I'm thinking of it right now. I want you to get out of if you say I think or I believe. I want you to take these phrases out of your vocabulary. Because the second in an argument essay you say, I think, or I believe, you're qualifying the argument. Well, I think this, but one, I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, don't hold it against me. Or like, you're also including yourself in the argument. In these type of essays, it really has nothing to do with you. You have to take a stand, yes, but you're going to say, machines help the consumer because. Or you're going to see in the example for today on, actually I can't remember what it is, on kids' toys and kids' stuff that grown-ups should play with kids' toys or they should not play with kids' toys. You want to take a definite position. Talking about yourself, really, you don't have to do that in these types of essays, okay? Look at question number 2. How is the ACT different from other essays? The difference is that everything about the ACT essay is pretty much different from an English class. So we don't want to grade it in the exact same way, or we don't want to approach it in the exact same way. I would differ with the writers of the ACT a little bit on this, and saying that the whole goal is to write a good argument. If you go in trying to write a good argument, that should be your ultimate goal. Yes, there are some tricks to this. There are some ways that you can kind of formulate, and I'm going to show you those. But don't overly complicate things by trying to make it more difficult than it needs to be. Just present a good argument. How is the ACT essay graded? You will have two people, if you do take the ACT essay, two people who will grade your essay. And each person will give it a score between 1 and 6. 6 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. The only way that you can score a 0 is if you completely ignore the prompts, if you write about something completely off topic, or if you don't write anything at all. And that's really the only way that you can get a 0. The rubric has ideas and analysis, development and support, organization, and language use. So these are 4 different sections on the rubric. Ideas and analysis, focus in on the argument that you're making. So what ideas are you presenting, and do you present them in a logical way? Development and support is mainly for your body paragraphs, like what evidence do you give to support your idea? How do you organize it, meaning like what transition words do you use, and is there a logical progression of ideas? And then do you have a basic command of language, meaning are your essays basically free from major errors? They're still considering it to be a rough draft, so they're not going to expect you to be perfect. How long do the ACT graders spend on the essay? Sorry, this should say ACT, not SAT. ACT graders are told to spend approximately 150 seconds reading each student's ACT essay. That is not a lot of time, okay? Because they have to get through a lot of essays. So because the graders are really going to be skimming your essay for ideas, is why there's kind of a certain approach to writing these essays, of how you present your ideas, pretty much like in the beginning and the end of your paragraphs and how long you write, that can help them to kind of quickly identify what it is that you're writing. What format should you receive? There's no, again, one way to do it, but the best and what we found over the years is the easiest format to use is to go, and we're going to go into this, introduction, con paragraph, pro body paragraph 1, pro body paragraph 2, and conclusion. So to present basically 2 of your own ideas and 1 con, while some people say that and present the other side, and just a little bit of that. A good score on the essay is if you can score basically a 10 out of 12. That would be a good score. So if your score between the 2 graders ends up being a 10, then you can be pretty confident with that. Now, obviously, because of this practice, you're only getting 1 grader, which is me, so you're not going to have that average of 2 scores. So you're just going to have a total of possibly 6 on your essays that you write for me. Will colleges see the essay? This is kind of a big deal for a lot of people. If I take the essay portion of the ACT, will colleges be able to see it? Admission officers at any college will be able to view and print the essay, but typically they don't read them. Why? Because most colleges are going to have an admission essay that they're asking you to write. So they're going to read that one. They really, for most colleges, they really don't care about the essay. Some of them will ask specifically for you to take it, but other than for the practice that we're doing, a lot of colleges will just depend on your college admission essay. All right, so what is the breakdown here? Let me just make sure I have this right. For some reason, I thought it was shorter than that. But anyway, you have 40 minutes to plan and write an essay on the topic that they're giving you. We're not going to focus too much on the time right now. We're going to just get kind of how you do this. Then we'll add the time in next week. Like we said, it's on a scale of 1 to 6. You spend a few minutes on your essay. Each will spend a few minutes on your essay, so you want to concentrate on the big points. What are the main things that I have to do? So these are the 5 ideas that you have to focus in on in your essay. Number 1, so you're going to write these in the blank. Take a stand. You have to take a position on the issue. You have to be stating for the argument or against the argument. Okay? But again, don't say, I think or I believe or I agree with, I disagree with. Don't speak about yourself. Just take a stand. Okay? This is right or this is wrong type of thing. Don't straddle the fence of the issue. Don't make statements like, sometimes this is true, but in other times it's not so true. Don't do that. Take one side. Number 2 is maintain focus. Whatever side you're picking, make sure that it's consistent throughout the whole essay. Don't flip-flop somewhere midway or start talking about something that's unrelated to the stand that you're making. Make sure that every sentence and every paragraph can connect back to your thesis statement, whatever stand you're making. You have to, 3, support your thesis. Now this may be clear to some of you, because you're pretty good at writing essays, but not everybody does this. You need to use a variety of examples and evidence. Your examples can come from a variety of sources. So if it comes from something that you've read in a book, or that you've seen in a movie, or if it comes from your personal experiences, it comes from a story that you've been told from a family member. Kind of the world is wide open for you to bring in your examples, as long as you can clearly explain them. And this is also key. Acknowledge the counter argument. This is kind of your sentence frame for this. While some people may argue that. If you can get in the habit of using this type of sentence for your counter argument, very good. Because you're presenting the other side of what some people see, but you're stating it only in a dependent clause. While some people may argue that and give the other side, it is an incomplete view of this argument. Like, you present the other side, but you don't spend too long on that other side. You're going to eventually come back to your side and make your argument. So you're still going to present this, but if you spend too long on it, it'll seem like that's your idea instead of the idea that you presented in your introduction. Number 4 is organize your ideas. Again, this may be pretty obvious, but you have to have an introduction, you have to have body paragraphs, and you have to have a conclusion, and you have to indent the start of your paragraph. So like if this were the start of my paragraph and I'm going to continue writing here, this indentation in the start of my paragraph, you have to do this. A lot of people don't do this. They just write in one straight block, and that automatically is going to signal to the person reading your essay that it's unorganized. So just by indenting your paragraphs, it's going to show them, all right, this person knows how to organize ideas. And use clear and effective language. Try to sound as smart as possible. Use your academic language. Don't make it sound like it's not you, but don't sound conversational either. Don't make it sound like you're talking with a friend. Use the most formal language that you can use properly. Okay. Now let's look at just kind of the basics of the format here. Because the graders are going to look at this fairly quickly, past the basics that we just talked about, these are two areas. First on format. This one's going to stand for format, and on content that you have to keep in mind. So the big five for format is fill the space. What I mean by that, let's imagine that this box here is like my piece of paper. Some students have a tendency to just write in the middle like this. And what that signals to a reader automatically is this is probably a lower end essay. If you are given a piece of paper, use from one end to the other of the lines that are given to you. Use up the full amount of space. Still format your essay like you're supposed to within the indented paragraph, but don't just write in the middle portion. If you fill up the space automatically, it looks like you have a better command of language, that you've kind of been trained and practiced how to write well. That's already proving to them something. Number two, I already said this before, but indent each paragraph. Do not write all in one big space. 3 is write legibly. Now, I know for the time that you're given, this can be a little bit difficult. Some of our handwriting is a little bit more clear than others, but if you try to write as clearly as possible, it makes it a whole lot easier for your grader to read and to grade. Okay? Do not use slang or contractions. Instead of saying I'm, say I am. If you're going to say can't, cannot. Don't use abbreviated language. Write everything out. And we already talked about don't use language that sounds like you're having a conversation, or slang words. And use, yes, proper capitalization and punctuation. What we've been practicing with punctuation in the English section, apply it here. You know by now that you cannot write a lowercase I. That's not appropriate. That you need to capitalize the first word of every sentence. Okay, so put that into practice in these types of essays. For context, here are your top details for context. Address the prompt fully. Whatever the prompt is asking you to do, make sure that you answer that question completely and don't just answer a part of the prompt. That means you have to read the whole page that they're giving you, even all of the perspectives, in order to be able to do that properly. Organize your essay. It should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Use examples. Okay, so like for the machines essay, if you're saying that machines are taking jobs from hardworking people, and you make that statement, but then you don't give me a for instance of how are machines taking away jobs, if you don't talk about, when you go to the grocery store, you can walk through the self-checkout and that is taking multiple jobs away from people who could work at the cash register. Those are the specific examples that you need to give. Instead of just saying machines are taking away our jobs. That's not good enough. Use correct spelling and grammar. That should be a given to the best of your ability. Again, we're not going to spell everything correctly, but try to do the best that you can. And up your vocabulary. Since the beginning of this course, you have been working on vocabulary words. And you've been putting these tiles together of new vocabulary words. I would suggest the day before of looking over some of that vocabulary and trying to apply it in your own work. And try to say, all right, I'm going to come into the test with these 3 vocabulary words that I know I can use in context and make it applicable. Now, this is a suggestion. It's only a suggestion down here as far as your formatting. You don't have to use this exact format. Excuse me. If this type of essay and essay writing is challenging to you, then frameworks kind of tend to help with some students. But if your essay writing is pretty good and you usually tend to get pretty good grades on your essays, then don't worry about a specific formatting. Just do what you do and do the best that you can with it. All right, so all that to say, now is the time that we practice this. So you've had one practice already for machines. While you're working on this essay, I'm going to take a look at those machine essays that you've submitted and see kind of where your first take is at this. You can get a computer, or if you have your own, and you'll need to open up a Google Doc. Read the prompt and respond in a Google Doc. I will have the assignment uploaded in just a moment. So at the end of the period, then you can submit it.